What's up everybody, it's Professor Oak. This is episode 3 of Professor's Research, the series where I break down every weapon class in Elden Ring. This week we're doing heavy thrusting swords. There are only 4 heavy thrusting swords in Elden Ring. We're going to cover each and every one of those. Before we get started, hit that like and subscribe for me if you don't mind. Comment down below what we should do next week. Let's jump into it. Before we get too deep into the heavy thrusting swords themselves, let's talk about the class in general. If you've seen one of my videos before, in the Professor's Research series, then you know that there are 3 things that I look for primarily. The moveset, the range, and the damage of a weapon. There's some other things here and there, like status condition, for example, that might influence how I look at a weapon, but those are the 3 things primarily. Now when talking about moveset, the heavy thrusting sword is going to have a pretty homogeneous moveset. R1 is going to be 3 pokes forward, followed by a small horizontal slash. The R2 is going to be unique for each weapon. Both the Crag Blade and the Helis are going to have what you see on screen, which is mostly just a thrust forward with the R2. If you charge it, you can cancel that. To perform this cancel, you're just going to press circle while charging the R2. If you want to travel in a different direction, it's going to be very similar to the ravioli step or the back step inputs, the reverse back step to be more clear. Press circle, hold the direction opposite of what you want your character to go, and he'll travel that distance that way. The Epi and the Stitcher are going to have that exact same ability, but they have unique R2s, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to those weapons. Now, when you two-hand this weapon, you're going to get, instead of the 3 R1s and then a 4th R1 being the horizontal slash, all 5 of your R1s are going to be the thrusting forward attack. I don't go that deep into the moveset personally, but it's there for you if you do. The two-handed R2 is going to be the exact same move, with a little bit of animation difference to account for holding the weapon with 2 hands. And that's pretty much all that changes. Everything else is going to be the exact same as one-handing it. Power stancing it is something I totally advise against. I think that the R1, while power stanced, being a staggered attack, one attack coming out the other, and not comboing, really hinders that. I also think the running L1 is a good attack, but basing this whole weapon around a running attack when it already has a really good running attack one-handed just didn't seem worth the trade-off. Two-handing seems to be the optimal way. Playing with a shield seems really good, but we all know what shield poking is. You're not gonna get the most, you're not gonna make many friends doing that. But that's it for the moveset. Let's move on into some of these specific weapons. Let's go. Okay, so last place, we've got the Dragon King's Crag Blade. Now, it's weird to put this in last place, it's a good weapon. It's got the highest damage, if we're counting split damage, of any heavy thrusting sword. It's the 2nd longest in the game, but its Ash of War is permanent. It's stuck with this Thundercloud form, and that's just not going to be that good in a duel or a one-on-one scenario against someone competent at the game. Reaction rolling completely shuts that down. There's not much else to say about it. That Ash of War is a gimmick. It's a noob killer, but yeah, not very good. I prefer having other things better. I'll reiterate that this is still a very good weapon. You're going to be able to use that Ash of War maybe in some fighting some ganks as an invader, but in a duel, yeah, that's just not very good. If you get hit by that, it's honestly a skill issue. Sorry guys. Maybe practice reaction rolling. But aside from that, the R2 is still good, great weapon. Moving on. This is a time in the series where the Ash of War and the moveset are going to pretty much just completely make this placement. I have the Great Epi in 3rd place. It is the shortest of the heavy thrusting swords. It has the lowest base damage of the heavy thrusting swords, but you're able to manipulate the Ash of War, putting it above the Dragon King's Crag Blade to me. It also has a unique R2 that is a much wider horizontal slash, great for roll catching people who are rolling towards you, predicting the poking attacks. Yeah, aside from that, not much unique about this weapon. I tried it primarily with Raptor of the Mists, also like Royal Knight Resolve on these heavy thrusting swords. But yeah, 3rd place, Great Epi, decent weapon. I think it's outclassed by the Stitcher. So Godskin Stitcher, number 2 for me. I almost put it in 1st place. I think it's my personal favorite, but I don't know if it's the best, and I wanted to keep my credibility as far as going for the best in number 1, Lamau. But yeah, great weapon. This has every advantage of every sword we've talked about so far, on top of it being the longest of the non-somber heavy thrusting swords, and it being the highest base damage of the non-sombers, and if you're not counting split damage, this is the highest damage heavy thrusting sword, period. It's a great weapon. The charged R2 is a double hitting attack that I was using a whole lot. If you are someone like me who doesn't play with these weapons as much, you may rely on a running R2 or the jumping R1s. Well, the minute people are used to that, you land from your jump or you stop running and you charge an R2. You catch that roll that they're trying to use to evade you. A sick weapon, and you get 2 hits off of it. Millicent's prosthesis says hello. Great, great, great weapon. 2nd place, Godskin Stitcher. So, Professor Oak, what is the number 1 best heavy thrusting sword in Elden Ring? Thank you for asking also, Professor Oak. The Bloody Helix. It's amazing, guys. There's, you know, a billion things I could say about it. I'll try to hit the highlights. It's the longest heavy thrusting sword in the game. It is the 2nd highest non-split damage, right after the Godskin Stitcher. And it has inherent blood loss buildup. Amazing, especially in this game with how status functions at the moment. Bleed is just very oppressive. I ran mine with a Reduvia offhand for that exact reason. When the Helix was a little too slow to get some hits, I was at least building up their blood loss bar a little bit with my dagger. Dynast's Finesse is an amazing Ash of War. If I could change the Ash of War on this weapon, I likely would not, or I would reinfuse it with that same Ash of War. It opens up the gateway to like a billion different mix-up variables. Some of my favorites, running R2 Ravioli Step R1, or running R2 Ravioli Step Dynast Finesse, or running R2 Dynast Finesse Follow-Up, running R2 Dynast Finesse No Follow-Up R1. Infinite mix-ups, so much that you can do, especially if you practice your reverse backsteps and Ravioli backsteps. This weapon is just a bundle of fun to play. If there weren't as many people that were upset about the poke meta, this would just be something I unashamed ran on every build. I love this weapon. But that's pretty much all I have for you guys this week. Bloody Helix is the best heavy thrusting sword in Elden Ring. I also really love the Godskin Stitcher. I had fun with the Epi. Dragon King's Crag Blade's okay too. This is one of the best weapon classes, period, in the game. Thank you guys for watching as far as you did. If you liked the video, leave me a like. If you got something to say to me, leave me a comment. And if you want to see more of this, or if you want to see the posts that I do randomly every few days, please subscribe. Helps me out so much. But that's been me for today. Appreciate you guys. Smell you later.